Thank you, everybody. I hope all of you can hear me loud and clear. So I have a couple of disclaimers I have to make before I make the presentation. One is that I've not prepared anything beforehand. I make a presentation impromptu. So this is coming in from my heart and is flowing, going with the flow. So I've tried to make the presentation as a kind of an intertwined story of how Futurenauts evolved and my story. So I think, and how I could get to where I am, and hopefully the story is still getting written. So this is my journey, and this is also about perspective, okay? Now, think about perspective for a minute, When you put together different opinions, viewpoints, different points of view together, what does that give you, On its own, everybody, like if you have a scientist in Bangalore, a teacher in Doha, a policymaker in Delhi, or a nurse in Liverpool, and by the way, these are all real people that we work with. If you see all of them, they see the world through their own lens. They see a part of the view. But if you bring their perspective together, then it becomes powerful. It connects across boundaries. And that's what education should be. It should connect across boundaries, not just facts in a classroom. It's something that connects across boundaries and create a big difference. And tonight I want to share with you my journey. I grew up in a small town, couple of small towns in Kerala, and then I went to UK, Silicon Valley, and finally at the global stage. And why the future of learning depends on bringing all this different perspective together. So this is my journey. So I started out in studying in small schools in Kannur and Calicut. These are like small towns in Kerala. And I studied in the late 80s, early 90s. And I still remember when I was going to school, we used to have the water leaking during the monsoon season. So we used to kind of go into a corner of the classroom just to make sure that our textbooks were not become damp. So from there, I think a common theme is that there are a lot of teachers, crowded classroom, teachers doing the best, parents who believed education was the ladder upward, which is very true even now. We memorized, we tested, we dreamed, but deep down, I knew that something was wrong, something was missing, was off. We weren't being prepared for the world that was coming, but nobody asked these questions at that time. So I studied hard, got into one of the prestigious engineering colleges, one of the top 10 colleges, got a merit certificate from CBSE. I was in the top 0.01% of students on the 10th. Got into NIT, which is one of the top 10 colleges in India. Went there, similar story, right? So you had a whole memorization, rote learning, all coming in, got into a job, and you know what? I hardly used even 3% of what I studied, and this is coming in from a premier institute. And this, unfortunately, is kind of a bane everywhere. And then I went to UK. I studied at Cranfield. My business school has its own Boeing Airbus, which is quite an achievement, and they kind of like saying that everywhere they market their material. But in the UK, suddenly learning meant dialogue, projects, question, I think, but there is still it was not about memorizing, but there are still gaps. It was still not a fluent process. I was not comfortable with the way it was coming in. Then I went on to Silicon Valley, and even over there, Silicon Valley is a global hub of innovation. It's a heart of the world, where everything new comes out. Over there also there's fragmentation. Schools teaching yesterday's lessons, universities producing graduates who are unprepared, governments not knowing how to regulate, and industries searching for skills that they couldn't find, okay? Then I thought to myself, what if we could connect these worlds instead of keeping them separate? That question gave birth to Futurenauts, not just a program, but a movement. How do you redefine, reimagine education across schools, universities, government, industries, healthcare? How do you kind of reimagine this in a new way? So that's the birth of Futurenaut. And the core idea is that we kind of create something that can be applied to the real world. And this is briefly my journey. As I explained, this is kind of a mix of my journey and the Futurenauts. So if you see here, again, going back to my journey, I was fortunate enough to be invited at the Presidential Summit last week. I just came back from London. So this is a place where global policy on AI, automation, robotics happens. And I was also being invited by the Indian Administrative Services to kind of design some of the AI curriculum, which is very prestigious. We are part of the number 10 Downing Street Prime Minister's Office announcement coming in UK. So for me, it's very, very satisfying because India, UK, and US are 3 countries that kind of define my journey. And I could reach pretty much the pinnacle of 3 places. So this is my journey. And I always joke about this everywhere I go. I'm so fed up of talking about myself. I'm so bored. It's the same story I'm keeping on. I mean, it's new for you guys, but the same story I'm repeating, but here it goes. So this is briefly my journey. My products have been featured in Science Museum. We've been featured in 100+ academia. We've been featured on the cover magazine of American Society of Mechanical Engineers. I'm a frequent speaker in robotics and AI. I've spoken at Walt Disney Company, AT&T. I was one of the 5 speakers across the US, presented to the global CEO. I was the inaugural speaker for BCG. I spoke at Volvo. I've spoken at City of Tomorrow Summit in New York. And I've appeared on a lot of podcasts. I have quite a good internet presence. You can Google me to get more information. I'm an Edison Award Silver Medalist. I'm also an investor. I've invested in 7 startups. My company has received $157 million in funding commitments. We are a semi-public US company. We work with the UK government on a lot of initiatives. We work with the US government. So this is briefly about me. I am also an author. I have a book that is in the top 10 bestsellers on AI in the US. And another series called the 2035 series, which I've written, which talks about the impact of AI, automation, education, robotics. So I would like to think that I've done fairly okay for myself so far. And this is kind of journey. Now coming back to the gap, right? So coming back to the Futurenauts education, why this has become central to my journey is that if you see yesterday's lessons versus tomorrow's needs, and that's a very kind of a core message. And that's unfortunately true if you see the engineering education, if you see any education that has not changed for over 70 years. If you see the way schools are even now delivering classes, that has not changed. If you see governments trying to educate their administrative officers, it has not changed. So really it is about yesterday's lessons versus tomorrow's needs. And one thing also you need to understand is that education is not just about knowledge. It is also about how do you apply? What is the real world use case? And that's what education is about. It's not just acquiring knowledge. So keeping that in perspective, education must qualify for these 3 main points. One is context. So what is context? Let me ask you something. Are you going to teach a 7-year-old student the same way you're going to teach an IAS administrator? No. Are you going to teach a returning employee, a woman who has taken a career break coming to her education? Are you going to teach her in the same way you're going to teach a graduate student? No. Are you going to teach a nurse in Liverpool the same way you're going to teach a factory worker in Raipur? No. Are you going to teach a UK doctor who is a surgeon the same way you're going to teach a high school student in India? Answer is no. So education must respect context. And by the way, all these examples that I gave you, we actually have taught to every single one of these profiles. So that's the diversity of people that we're dealing with. And education must respect context. Education must be inclusive. And this is not your kumbaya inclusive where you include people from every background. The inclusion here means that you should listen to the different voices in the system. Policymakers, customers, teachers, students, siblings, industries, employers, governments. So have you included their viewpoint in designing the education system? And this is something that we are all guilty of not doing. We think we know what's best to teach. We have the hubris to think that we know what we have to teach is right. And I see this all the time, even with big universities, small universities, this is a recurring theme. So education must be inclusive. And three is that it should be outcome dependent. You know, the classic thing as General Electric always say, you can't make better what you can't measure. And that holds true to education. How can you make your education system better if you can't measure it? What are the outcomes? So you need a mechanism to measure it. And another perspective is that how is the outcome being defined? What are the stakeholders? Is it going to be better for society, better for government, better for industries? So you should design a system that is measurable and that is also better for society overall, that is equipped for the future. So these are the very key tenets of education. Now, I want you to think back for a minute and think about a teacher or a mentor that made an impact in your life. Just think about a person. What is one teacher that has made an impact? And if you have that person forming in your mind, that's the power of impact. That is the power of a great teacher. See how much impact that person has made in each of your career, each of your life. I want you to think that. That's how noble a profession education is, and that's how important education is, for society and for the future. And I want to go into some of these terminologies and some of the sectors. So let's now look at some of the sectors we are dealing with. This is K-12. K-12, by the way, in the US is grade 1 to 12. So we have listened to parents who are probably asking, is it affordable for my students? Teachers who want it integrated in the curriculum, and kids who are having fun making it. So we have seen students in Qatar, in Europe, in India, in the US, in UK, build these kits with fascination. So this is what you've done in K-12. And if you see, the Futurenauts is collaboration beyond borders. We are in 600 plus academic institutions, 1 million hours of training. And if you see over here, we have done internship, launchpad, engineering degree, professional edge, AI for all, signature series for schools. So you have a big spectrum of activities that you're doing. And what I'm trying to do is, as an entrepreneur, I'm trying to introduce all these methodologies and techniques to different institutions. And we've been very successful. We work with some of the largest and most prestigious institutions. We work with Manchester and Liverpool Russell Group top leaders. We work with Berkeley, Carnegie Mellon, Arizona State students from all these universities. In India, we work with the Birla Group. Incidentally, this is my second Birla institution. We work with the Birla Group in India. We work with Crescent. We also work with Jindal. Mr. Naveen Jindal had personally reached out to us, and with OP Jindal University, we are kind of working out on an initiative. So this is kind of a success we have had, and it's very broad, but the core theme is same. Now, in terms of healthcare, we have designed an elderly care robot, and again, the same concept of inclusion applies. So we listen to doctors, we listen to patients, we listen to nurses, and we created a healthcare robot. So when compassion meets code, technology becomes human, right? So we have done education initiatives for doctors on the same note. So, and in terms of industry, and this is a very common recurring theme, wherever you go, there is job loss, scare of automation. Is my job going to be impacted? But what I've seen personally is that when I go to plants in Raipur, when I've seen hospitals in the UK, we are part of the NHS initiative, by the way. We're one of the companies that are officially partnering with the NHS on the Hospital 2.0, and we're one of the only other companies other than British Aerospace, which is quite a prestige. We have seen that it is man plus machine is safer, smarter, and dignified. It is not about AI or robots versus humans. It is AI and robots plus humans is better, safer, faster, more productive. And this is what is happening. And this will unfortunately increase in terms of scale as the years roll on, right? And this is something that I would like to mention. So connecting all this back, I would like to give you one example. Again, this is not in the script. It just came to my mind. I'm just going to mention it. See, when I grew up, my dad always said, don't use a scientific calculator. you should learn how to use it on your own, right? So when his dad grew up, his grandparent always said, don't use a calculator, learn to calculate on your own. So now I'm saying to my son, don't use ChatGPT. Do it on your own. So do you see the recurring theme here? This is not something that we can influence. So these tools are gonna remain same. It is like the old saying from, I think from Socrates, who wrote in 600 BC, or around very, very long back. He said that everybody is trying to write a book and nobody is listening to their parent. We are living in very turbulent times. And if you see, nothing has changed. So there are some things that are kind of moving on, and it's the same with us. So AI will be used by a lot of our new generation. It'll be used by the next generation. We can't change that. And I think it's for the better. But bringing all this together, let's step back. There are schools, universities, governments, healthcare industries. So with Futurenauts, alone they are separate stories. But together they form the future of education. And that's the vision of Futurenaut. Not one program for one sector, but a pathway for all. And here's a challenge I leave you with. The next time you walk into a classroom, you go to a meeting, or your own family dinner table, I want you to ask yourself, and that's why there is an empty chair, ask yourself, whose voice have you left out? Are we guilty of being exclusive in designing the different curriculum? Whose voice have you left out? Because progress will never come from one voice alone. It will come from many, from all of us. And the strength of our future is in a shared perspective. Thank you very much, everybody, and hope it was useful.